When we say that the biggest issue is that people don't understand how the scoring works, let's settle that. Can you walk us through how the judges' scoring is actually calculated in a bodybuilding competition?
We don't have a scoring system that's what I call a cumulative. You don't gain points and then you have some sort of a lead, okay, going into the finals. You have to think about it as two separate entities.
It does accumulate at the end because they take the scores and they add them, right? There's the accumulation, is my understanding.
Well, yes and no. First of all, there's been a lot of accusations made that this is mathematically impossible. And Phil was ahead by 9 points, and there's no way Dorian could have caught up. And that's why it's a conspiracy. This has never happened in the history of bodybuilding before. I am here to tell you, brother, first and foremost, that is absolutely uncategorically untrue.
What is the role of the head judge versus the other judges on the panel?
The head judge, in some cases, doesn't even have a vote.
Could a head judge ever be a tiebreaker? Like, say you've got three, like there were 7 on this panel. 3 judges say that Phil's in first. 3 judges say that he's in second. Does the head judge say, I'm making the final call on this?
The conspiracies are, of course, now flying from these guys that, a call was made, like the BAT hotline, phone from Pittsburgh. Hey, Big Steve, what's happening? Oh, man, we just got done with prejudging. Yeah, how's it look? Oh, we got Phil's in first. This guy, Dom from Germany's in second, and Dorian Haywood is in third. And then somebody in Pittsburgh said, well, wait a minute. We can't have that. What do you mean Phil's winning? I thought we talked about this. It's like, can you even imagine the stupidity? Do you think anybody in Pittsburgh would give a rat's ass who won the Masters Olympia in Japan? Listen, there's no conspiracy, Phil. Listen, man, let's be real here, okay? If they didn't want you in the show, they didn't have to have you in the show. You could have been suspended and fined, accusing the vice president of the federation of conspiracy and wanting you out of the sport and every other maniac thing that he said, okay? The problem is after that, it goes to his head. He thinks he's a superstar. And then every show after that, he is bitched and complained about because he didn't feel like he got the placing he deserved. That's a fact.
All right, we're back for another one. Bob, thank you again for joining me. How's it going, man?
Kenson, what's up, brother? It's been a while, but glad to be back in action as we are counting down the weeks to the 2025 Olympia. And you know what? Bodybuilding drama is at its all-time high right now.
Seems to always peak around this time of year. And you know what? The focus really should be coming back on the fact that we've got an incredible lineup in every division that's coming up at this year's Olympia. When I started covering this stuff back in 2022, it was very exciting then. And every year we've had more and more and more, when it comes to the excitement really building. But it seems like at this time, things have to be put to bed yet again. And, we were talking about this before we came on. I like when people can have certain conversations in bodybuilding. I like being a part of those conversations, but it does come to a point. I've made posts about this on my Instagram. I eventually just get to a point where it's just like, you know what? It's time for us to continue on here and look at what's coming up, which is the competitions, the competitors. That's why I started this, to have those conversations in bodybuilding. Who's going to place at what show? But regardless of that, it's time to really just answer a few questions when it comes to the latest on the Masters Olympia. Now, I actually did have Phil on my channel. A lot of people saw that interview. Phil gave his side of the story. I wanted to make sure that Phil could give his side of the story completely, which I think he did very well. And I was very appreciative of coming on. I did invite Phil to come on with you as well on this episode, but Phil said that he didn't feel like it was benefit him or the situation ongoing. So he declined.
You know what? That's one of the few things me and Phil are ever going to agree on. We'll get into some of the details as we go. No, it would not have benefited him in any way, shape, or form, and he knows that. That's why he's not on here. Same for his buddy Matt, who again is not a favorite person of either one of ours, but he's another one. Again, just clueless, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on him. He's already way past his 15 minutes, but there's a whole lot of things here to unpack, but mostly what I want to focus on is the points, how they work, because that seems to be the outrage from their side, is this dramatic swing in points, and how does it happen, and it's impossible, and it's never happened, and none of that is true, and I am here to explain every bit of that. I'm not going to want any personal attacks on Phil, although he seems to like to, throw out a whole bunch of them I saw online on various things. So, he's a big, tough guy. He likes to let everybody know that. And, I'm a coward. I didn't have the guts to come up to him in Tampa. The funny thing is I didn't even know he was in Tampa. I never saw him one time ever. Never locked eyes. We never passed each other. I had no clue this guy was in Tampa, but if he knew I was there, why didn't he come up and say hello? I would have been more than happy to buy him a coffee, or we could have talked about it like men. And, I could have answered any questions he had, but he didn't seem to want to do that. But that was done, and this is now, Kenson. So fire him off, brother. What you got for questions? And I got all kinds of answers and examples for you.
Well, Bob, when we were first speaking about this, you said that one of the biggest misconceptions is that, or not misconception necessarily, one of the biggest issues with this situation is that people don't necessarily understand how the scoring works when it comes
Correct.
to a bodybuilding competition. Now, look, I've had you on my show before, and we've had our conversations, and you've laid everything out in very plain English. Even though some people think that you tend to put things out there as a biased person that's working for the IFBB, blah 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 blah.
Right.
I think all that's been put to bed. But this is why I wanted to have you on. When we say that the biggest issue is that people don't understand how the scoring works, let's settle that. Can you walk us through how the judges' scoring is actually calculated in a bodybuilding competition?
Sure. So, a few things just to start. I mean, everybody pretty much knows we use the placement system. We've been using that for many, many years, where you pretty much get a number. All right. Somebody thinks you're in first place, you get a 1. Somebody thinks you're in second, you get a 2, and so on and so on. Okay. So the lowest score is actually the better score. In a world of 7 judges, high and low would get tossed out. A perfect score would be 5. Okay. So it's literally that simple. It's just the placement system. Now, in this particular case, the big hubbub here, because we can get into the actual physiques and how that all, took place over the course of that entire day, which is what the show was on. But before we get to that, okay, the points. Now, first of all, there's been a lot of accusations made that this is mathematically impossible. And Phil was ahead by 9 points, and there's no way Dorian could have caught up, and that's why it's a conspiracy. This has never happened in the history of bodybuilding before. I am here to tell you, brother, first and foremost, that is absolutely uncategorically untrue. Okay, this has happened many times in bodybuilding over the years where somebody's had a lead, so to say, and I'm going to get into that in a moment, that's evaporated. Most notably, people know like the 2001 Olympia that Jay Cutler was ahead by 6 points over Ronnie Coleman going into the finals, and he ends up losing to Ronnie Coleman. If you want to go all the way back in ancient history, bro, 79, Night of the Champions, Danny Padilla actually carded a perfect score of 300. They used a different system back then, and lost the show to Robbie Robinson. So think about that. He scored a perfect 300. It's the best you could get to Robbie's 299, I believe it was, and he lost the show. Okay, so just to give a few, just earlier today, before we started taping, I saw a great video by Guy Sesternino, one of our 212 greats that everybody knows Guy. He himself went out there with an excellent video explaining that in 2014 at the Toronto Pro, a show that I believe I was calling, Guy went from third place minus 8 points down and came back to win the show. Okay, so there's plenty of examples, but I don't want to spend, again, a lot of time on the examples, just because I just want to put that out there because it was made by Phil, his wife, and anybody else with an ear, Matt, that this was the smoking gun of the conspiracy, that nobody's ever overcome a 9-point deficit and all that. So let me just shed some light on this, everybody, okay? First of all, we don't have a scoring system that's what I call accumulative, okay? You don't gain points and then you have some sort of a lead, okay, going into the finals. You have to think about it as 2 separate entities, okay? You go in the morning in the prejudging and you get scored accordingly. So whether it's you end up ahead by 9 points, 90 points, or 9,000 points, it doesn't make any difference. All that means is that there was a general consensus of the judges, and in this case, after the prejudging, it was Phil 6, Dom, I believe his name was, the German guy, 11, second place, and Dorian was in third place with 14. Okay, Now, a perfect score would have been 5. So that means one other person had somebody else in first place. Probably Dom probably had a first place vote over Phil. Okay, so that's why it's not absolutely perfect. So it's 6, 11, and 14. Now, what does that mean? That means that, yes, he has a 9-point, quote, lead over Dorian. But here's the thing. You don't carry a point total into the finals, okay? You don't have a lead. This would be like two guys that are having a race and running. And they race in the morning, and the one guy wins by 20 feet. Okay, and now they're going to race again later, and he has a 20-foot lead. You take that lead into the second race, so he starts 20 feet ahead. It's like no. Wait, it's a different race, right? Like there is no cumulative point total that you amass going in because they're assessing physiques. All that means is by general consensus that everybody thought, with the exception of one, that Phil won the morning. Okay, got me so far, bro?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, now nighttime comes. Now we say night, they say it was 3 hours, 4 hours. It doesn't make any difference. It could have been 10 minutes. Okay, the finals come around. By the consensus of the judges, the score now flip flops. Dorian ends up in first with 5 points. That means it was unanimous. There were 7 judges. High and low got thrown out. Dorian's up with 5. That means unanimously everybody hit Dorian in first place. Second place was actually Dom from Germany again with 11 points. And Phil
Domenico,
was actually Domenico. Phil was actually in third place with 14 points. So it completely switched, right? So by consensus of the judges, it flip-flops. Now, is this possible? I know some of the speculation was, well, what could happen in 3 hours? What physiques are, I've seen physiques change in 3 minutes on stage. I have been on the Olympia stage and hundreds of other shows where I watched people melt right before my eyes. 2007, Victor Martinez walked out there, Ken, with God as my witness. I thought, we got a new Olympia. We got an Olympia winner here. Holy crap. Victor looked awesome. And every pose he hit, he kind of faded and he melted. And by the time we got to the end, well, Jay Cutler ended up in the winner's circle. But yeah, for the first half of a round, he was your winner. I mean, he looked that good. People change in minutes on stage, okay? So it doesn't matter whether it was 3 hours or whether 10 hours went by or even if it was the next day. Irrelevant. The judges saw it completely reversed. So that's where the points come, but they're not cumulative, people. You don't have a lead. Even Phil said, oh, well, even if I came back and I wasn't as good, maybe he gets 2 points or even 3, but there's no way you make up 9 points. You're right, Phil. There is no way you make it up because it doesn't exist. You don't carry that lead into the finals. You're looking at a physique. Again, this isn't a soccer game or something where you have runs.
Well, that was my understanding, is that if you have, I would think that if you had a lower score at prejudging, then you, even if you did have, like you said, a slight discrepancy in your physique in 3 hours, then that would actually carry over to your final score, because it does accumulate at the end, because they take the scores and they add them, right? There's the accumulation, is my understanding.
Well, yes and no. Like I say, it's not, again, I use the word cumulative. It's probably not the exact word mathematically, but the 2 rounds are added together, but they are judged as separate rounds. So listen, I don't need math guy hitting us up on here. Again, I'm giving you my interpretation of how it works. Okay. But it's you don't take a lead, so to say, other than the fact that X amount of judges think you're better. In this particular case, none of the judges thought he was better. And actually, they didn't even have him in second place. They had him in third place. Now, Steve said out there, and I quote, that in his opinion, this was on an interview I believe he did right after the show, that he thought Phil, quote, fell apart at the night show. Okay, now I know Phil's taking some exception to that, but you know what? This is head judge Steve Weinberger, who's our head judge at the Olympia. Also, because Steve was not the sole judge here, I know he takes a lot of heat, but sitting right to his left or right was Sandy Williamson, one of the most respected judges that we have. If there's 2 top judges, these are the 2, okay? And then you had Tarek El Gindi, again, also another very well-respected Olympia judge. I don't know who the other 2 judges were, but 3 out of the 5 are top Olympian judges, okay? They saw it as a collective. Okay. Phil had no first place votes and he had no second place votes at the finals. Now, whether we dispute whether he changed, whether anybody thought was Dorian was better, listen, neither guy was great at the prejudging. Okay, let's just start there. Okay, and I don't want to be disparaging. Okay, listen, it is what it is. It's the Masters competition, whatever. Okay, there was no superstars in the show, so to say. None of these guys nailed it. None of them were that great. When it gets to a show like this type of a thing, you actually have to reverse it. I've been saying for many, many years, how do you judge a bodybuilding show? Actually, we've covered this. And I've always said, it's not who has the most amount of strengths, it's who has the least amount of weaknesses. Now, in something like this, you actually have to reverse it. It's not, it's who has the most amount of strengths because neither guy is that great. So you have to kind of look for things that, okay, well, Dorian was holding a lot of water in the morning. Phil was okay. All right, let's take out the middle guy because he doesn't really count into this scenario that we're working with. So neither guy are great, but Dorian is so soft that they can't put him in first. So they put Phil in first. Okay, great. Listen, good for you, Phil. I mean, I'm not judging the show, right? But that was the consensus by the judges and by the scoring. Well, the difference is Dorian sharpens up at night. He drops some water, from what I understand, from talking to the judges, from talking to people that were there. Okay, so yes, I wasn't there, everybody. I know they like to make a big deal out of that. And he's got a lot more muscle than Phil. Yeah, listen, he's got flaws. Phil's got flaws, okay? Phil, it looks flat at night. He's smooth, he's flat, and he's missing stuff. He doesn't have any hamstrings. He's got no calves, but nobody really has great calves anyways. He looks a little stringy. His stomach, his midsection control is not great, and it's not great anyway. He's got a lot of loose skin on the front. And I'm not saying, I'm just going with a physique breakdown, okay? This isn't against Phil, okay? He's got one shot on Dorian, and that's from the back. His back double by, quote, even if I give him the back lat, is better than Dorian's, okay? Every other shot, Dorian wins because he's a lot thicker, he's a lot more muscular, and that's what the judges saw. And he sharpened up enough that the general consensus was that they like Dorian's look better at night than Phil.
We know that physiques can change very quickly. We watch it happen on stage between rounds of posing. I don't think any of that is in question. Again, I wasn't there either. From what I could see at the finals, I actually think that, and I've put this out there, my opinion is that Phil did actually win. I think that Phil actually beat Dorian on many, many shots. I actually had him 6-2. And look, we're not going to sit here and rhyme off everything and really get into that,
Listen,
right?
That's fair. That's cool.
My opinion, right? And nobody
Right.
has ever given me a hard time about my opinion. Thankfully, well, I shouldn't say that. But
Right.
in this particular instance, this is how I saw it. Now, I think that one thing that could clear up maybe a little bit of this is explaining the role of the head judge. What is the role of the head judge versus the other judges on the panel?
Okay, so the head judge in some cases doesn't even have a vote. There are shows that when they have multiple judges, let's say 9 or even 11 or 13, sometimes the head judge won't even have a vote, so to say. Their judge is to basically take the collections from all the other judges, compile them, and do the call outs accordingly. So if anybody's ever been to a show and you can kind of get a look of what they're doing up there, you'll see that they're kind of looking down both sides and they're asking each other. You can't hear what they're saying, but I know what they're saying. And they're passing down paper. Now, why are they doing that? What they're doing is they're passing down their wish list. I want to see this guy, this guy, this guy, because as everybody, let's just say there's 20 guys that come out, right? As every guy comes out and they do their individual and all that, you'll see them making notes. And what they're making notes of is a perspective, first call out, second call out, third call out. And vice, and keep going, depending on how many people you got. Okay. What they do is they send that down, and that kind of gets compiled. You'll see the head judge kind of looking at it. He can get a general consensus pretty quickly, as most of us can sit there and go, well, listen, these 3 guys are definitely fighting it out for the lead, okay? In this particular instance, let's just take this show. It was fairly obvious from what I can see and who I've talked to that it came down to these 3 guys, okay? So it's just, I'm sure nobody in that there was only 7 of them. In this case now, they were all judging, okay? The head judge not only judges and has a vote, but he also compiles the request from the other judges. So that's the head judge's role.
Okay. So let's say that the head judge is at this Masters Olympia. Steve
Mhm.
Weinberger being the head judge. We had all four other judges. They will hand their notes to Steve Weinberger and say, this is who we want to see in the callouts. But it is
Correct.
at the discretion of Steve Weinberger as to who he puts in the callouts and in what position. The head judge specifically puts people in what order he so chooses for everybody else to assess.
Well, that's true and not true. Yes, he does do that. He does put people where he thinks, it is his opinion. Obviously, he's the head judge.
Right,
But
but it's with
other
the other
judges,
judges. Oh, so
they
yeah, okay, good,
they
good.
always request seeing somebody next to somebody. Again, if anybody, you can just look at the body language on the judging panel because most people can't get close to them to see or hear anything. But
Right.
I've seen a few shows. They'll look. You'll see him talking to the guy next, and people say, "Well, what are they talking about? What are they conferring?" Well, the judge next to him might be saying, "You know what? I want to see this guy." Okay, that's when you'll say, "Okay, can number 6 and number 9 switch, please?" Okay, 2 and 4 switch, and a lot of times you'll see this after a round of posing. So you'll see him go through the mandatories, hit the back poses, come back around, and then they're going to switch because now you got comparison, right? This is the whole sport of bodybuilding that we have is comparison. Oh, you know what? As this guy's posing, I think he looks a little bit better than I thought. So I want to move him from the outside to the inside. Oh, this guy actually isn't that great. I'm going to move him to the outside. So this is what occurs during a bodybuilding show. And the consensus, listen, I don't care what anybody says. You want to be towards the middle, okay? The further you get out, the
Absolutely.
worse you're placing, right? I mean, I know they say like don't put a lot of stock in that, but come on, let's not bullshit ourselves. I mean, you absolutely want to be in the middle, okay?
You want to be in the middle. There's no question. So, okay, the head judge gets their notes from all the other judges and ultimately decides where he wants to put people based on the consensus of what he gets from all the other
Correct.
judges. In this case, four judges, say 3 out of 4 said, we want to see Phil in the middle at the prejudging.
Seven judges.
I'm sorry, 7 judges. So in this case, we had the 7 judges. 5 out of 7 said we wanted to see Phil in theory in the middle at prejudging, and then say at night it was 5 out of 7 that said no, actually now we want to see Dorian in the middle. The head judge will look at that and say the majority of the judging panel is looking to
Mm-hmm.
see this athlete in this place, and based on their experience of being a judge, and in this case having the authority of a head judge, he will
Right.
place them where he sees fit based on what the rest of the judging panel is requesting. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean that sums it up in a nutshell.
Okay.
In the morning, like I say, by the points, Phil has 6, Dom has 11, Dorian has 14. That means that 6 out of 7 judges had Phil in first place.
Right.
6 out of 7. That's why he's got a 6 instead of a 5. It wasn't unanimous. Now, I didn't see the exact score, so I don't know. Dom could have had a first place vote. Dorian could have had a first place vote. All right, but one person went the other way, somewhere between second and third, between first and second. Okay, so that's how you get to that point total in the morning. So Phil is undeniably winning the show in the prejudging. Okay, this
Right.
is where they get a little bit off the rockers. Okay, with the conspiracy stuff. Okay, so now we know how the points work. Like I said, everybody, it's not a cumulative score. Okay, you don't take a lead into the finals and by some point magic. It again, 9 points, 900 points. Okay, it makes no difference. It's just a consensus of the judges. Everybody thought Phil was winning in the morning. That is undisputable. Okay, nobody thought Phil was winning at night. That is undisputable. Now, the conspiracies are, of course, now flying from these guys that a call was made. Like the bat hotline, phone from Pittsburgh. Hey, what's going on over there, man? Hey, Big Steve, what's happening? Oh man, we just got done with prejudging. Yeah, how's it look? Oh, we got Phil's in first. This guy Dom from Germany's in second, and Dorian Haywood is in third. And then somebody in Pittsburgh said, well, wait a minute, we can't have that. What do you mean Phil's winning? I thought we talked about this. It's like, I mean, can you even imagine like the stupidity of this type of a thing that they think is going? Do you think anybody in Pittsburgh would give a rat's ass who won the Masters Olympia in Japan? And like I've speculated on my own podcast that we had last week, listen, there's no conspiracy. It's like, bro, Phil, listen, man, let's be real here, okay? If they didn't want you in the show, they didn't have to have you in the show, okay? One, you could have been suspended for your stupid comments last year, okay? You could have been suspended and fined, accusing the vice president of the federation of conspiracy and wanting you out of the sport and every other maniac thing that he said, okay? They didn't do that, okay? Because they didn't care enough to even bother, okay? They could have suspended him and fined him for not coming back to the finals in Tampa when he took dead last, and he decided he didn't want to come back because he was pissed off, okay? According to the actual rules, if you want to read them and stuff, you could have been fined and suspended for that, okay? Because they think that it's conduct unbecoming and it's unprofessional, which it is. They didn't do that. You know why? Because they didn't care enough to even bother with it. And even though I've tried to explain this, they still don't get it on the other side. It's an invitational. Now, the comeback on it was, well, wait a minute, he took top 3 2 years ago that automatically qualified him. You can be automatically qualified. You still have to be invited, okay? Give you a good example. Every Mr. Olympia or Olympia champ in history is automatically qualified to go into the Olympia for life, okay? They still have to be invited to the show. They have to submit, and they have to be accepted, like kind of like what Levrone did, right, a couple of years back. You know, he had to get a special invite. That's a little bit different, but it's the same principle. Even on it's an invitation. That means they had the right to invite you or not invite you. It doesn't matter whether you're qualified or not. They didn't care enough to not invite him. So they invited him to the show, competed fair and square, didn't take this idea that they're keeping his comments that he made, they're holding against him. You don't think that they knew it's an invite. They knew he was in the show 6 months ago. So
and they allowed him to be there.
What you don't think they talk like why would they have him in first place at the prejudging if they wanted to screw him over? Why would you put him in first? You could have just kept him and put him in third place and been done. Nobody would have said one word.
Well, the conspiracy theorists would say that the reason that they put him in first at the prejudging and in third at the finals is so that there was at least a perception of fairness to begin with, and that would disallow any further conspiracy. That's where that conversation will come in. And I see it online.
Wow,
I see it.
Come on, that is the dumbest thing I've ever said. So basically, they wanted to let him in and then give him a false sense of security just so he could screw him later on. And let me tell you something. You know, Phil's trying to play like, nice to a bit because he doesn't really want to insult Steve. But, so he says, well, no, they judged me fairly in the morning. And then a call was made. Okay. So now you're literally like, how insulting to Big Steve and Sandy of all people, right? That you're now questioning their integrity, that Steve made a call that he saw fit right there, and Sandy. Like I say, there are 2 top Olympian judges. And you think that Pittsburgh made a call and overruled them? I mean, are you insane? Like how far out there do you have to go to believe this nonsense? If they wanted to screw him, they could have told him before he left, listen, Steve, I don't give a shit what he looks like, okay? You bury that guy, all right? You put him in 10th, put him in 4th, but he ain't winning, okay? You don't think they could have had that call? I mean, like I said, it's just silliness, bro. The main problem is I can sum up in just a few words are real easy, okay? Phil's perception of how good he is so far out there. He's so delusional that this is his main problem with everything. The worst thing that ever happened to this guy was that he won Orlando a couple of years ago. It's the worst thing that ever happened because he felt he was a superstar after that. And all he did after that was place last. So it's like, look, I ain't taking the win away from you. I didn't judge it. Actually, I believe Steve Weinberger judged that show. But if you remember, and I don't know if you do or don't, but this might jog your memory, Kenson. That show was Phil versus Hassan. Okay?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Hassan, as everybody knows, is a fire hydrant, man. He is just a pile of muscle, right? I mean, he is just thick, and he's got a lot of muscle, and that's a guy that you think, like, wow, if this guy ever got his shit together, he could cause some problems, right? Phil versus Hassan at prejudging, okay? Neither one of them are great. Hassan is holding a ton of water. This is Phil versus Dorian. It's the same exact scenario. The difference is that night, because I called Phil's victory on that stage, was Hassan never got any better, okay? He didn't sharpen up after prejudging, and they put these guys through the ringer. They were posing and posing and posing. You could tell Hassan was a better bodybuilder, but he was so butter soft that you literally couldn't give it to him because Phil was in shape. Now, he was missing things, and he wasn't the great, but he was in shape, okay? So they justly rewarded him and gave him the victory. Listen, that is great. Good for Phil. Congratulations, bro. But there's a difference, bro, between winning a show and losing a show, okay? And I say that with this. Okay. That was Hassan lost the show more than Phil won the show. Now, before everybody starts going crazy, let me give you another analogy, and I'll use my same two runners. Okay. You got two guys in a race. First race, these guys are tearing down. The one guy takes a 3-4 stride lead, boom, crosses the finish line. He wins the race, correct? The other guy
Yeah,
lost the race. I mean, that's pretty black and white, right? So now they
right.
race again. Same results. Guy takes off, right? He's tearing it down. He trips and falls. The other guy crosses the finish line. Now, did that guy that crossed the finish, did he win the race? Well, yeah, he did. But the other guy kind of lost the race, right? Because he tripped. I mean, he fell. So, yeah, the other guy won. But, that's the analogy of Phil versus Hassan. The problem is after that, it goes to his head. He thinks he's a superstar. And then every show after that, he is bitched and complained about because he didn't feel like he got the placing he deserved. That's a fact.
There's so many times that it's going to be said, and it will be said again. I was not there. I will maintain my own personal opinion that I do think that Phil did win the show. That's my opinion.
You can think that, sure.
And
Absolutely.
exactly right. And it's not the first time that I felt like that. I felt like that when Tony Burton went up against Rafael Brandao at the Arnold Classic Brazil. I can name many instances where I felt that way. Right. These are personal opinions.
Yeah,
Now, when it
absolutely.
comes to yeah, so that's fine. That's one thing. I want to circle back to the head judge thing, though. In this case, the
Sure.
head judge did end up getting a vote when it came to the prejudging scores and the final scores, right?
Correct.
Can a head judge ever be in a situation where they make a call in order to break a tie? Like, could a head judge ever be a tiebreaker?
Um,
Like, say you've got three, like there were seven on this panel. Three
right.
judges say that Phil's in first. Three judges say that he's in second. Does the head judge say, I'm making the final call on this?
I have never seen that. I mean, is it possible? I guess by the rules that there are mathematical rules
Yeah,
that we
by
do
by
have.
by the rules. Yeah, can the
Yeah.
head judge make that?
I mean, I've never seen it. That's why I say, like, I'm unsure whether that's in the rules that they can actually do that. Okay. There is
Okay.
mathematical tiebreakers. Okay. Now, even, and then it goes even to that. Like, it goes to like who had the most amount of first place votes, that type of thing. Like, we just had this with Derek and Nick, right, in Pittsburgh. We had a tie, and it's almost identical. It's funny because these guys are going to go on about this thing, right? Like it's a big conspiracy, but um, Pittsburgh, one guy won the morning, one guy won the night. So they're tied. Okay. So that's, again, everybody with the points, right? The points. Everybody had one guy winning and the other guy in second in the morning. The other in the nighttime in the finals, they had it switched. So we're tied. So they went back and forth, back and forth, back. Now they will keep going to the panel, okay, until somebody establishes themselves. That's why Steve puts people through the ringer. Okay. He had these guys pose until they were exhausted. Okay. And at the end of the day, ironically, the reason that Nick lost against Derek was mostly his midsection and his inability to control it as they went on. Okay. And the fact that they just didn't think, that, he came up enough to take it from Derek. In this instance, it's almost identical. The report that was given, take it for what it's worth, okay, but these are people that are there judging it. When Steve said he, quote, fell apart at night, what he meant was mostly is that his first of all, he was flattened out and he was getting softer, and his midsection was a problem. He wasn't controlling his midsection at night, and it was a distraction. And when your midsection is a distraction, it's a distraction in all the front poses: front double bi, front lat, side chest, side try, front abdominal, certainly. So until you get and turn around to the back, I'll give both back poses to Phil. I got no problem with that. He was better than Dorian from the back. Dorian's not great from the back, but neither guy is great. So it's just a consensus of who was better at that point. I don't know. His presentation may not have been good. I don't know. Again, I didn't see enough of it it was probably even on both for that. So that's why the tiebreaker went to Dorian in this case. Now, you can have your opinion. I can have mine. I'm sure there's other people that saw it either way. But the only people's opinions that make a shit of difference is those 7 people on the judging panel. It got nothing to do with nobody in Pittsburgh. It's got nothing to do with what he said last year. Listen, this is the same guy who was bitching about his third place finish at the Masters 2 years ago. You know why I know that? Because I was there. I was doing the play-by-play and the color commentary for Romania. Um, who was it? Kamal won. I think it was Max Charles in second, and Phil took third.
Yeah.
Listen, he looked good, very respectable. Nobody, we were still buddies back then, not buddies, but, we were friendly back then. And we were at the dinner afterwards, and his wife made a beeline right up to me, and there was a few people standing there, and she was just bitching up a storm about how we got screwed and how this is bullshit, and this is an outrage, and this and that. And like, whoa, take it easy, okay? Listen, he took third place. I mean, she wasn't having it. But they've complained about this is just a pattern, and it's wearing on people. And it's like, Phil, if you're watching this, bro, listen, I don't have any personal axe to grind with you, okay? You've kind of made this into a thing because you don't want to accept reality. You're delusional when it comes to looking at your physique. You cannot assess your own physique, clearly. Listen, but your true colors have shown through every time. You complained about that Masters third place victory. To me, I was right there. So this ain't hearsay, okay? Then you complained at Chicago. You were in the last call out in the men's open. Well, let me back up. You went to the Olympia. You took dead last. Listen, I don't keep that against you. I didn't kick ass in my Olympia appearance either. But that's here. Nobody was expecting you to do anything at the Olympia. So I'm going to take that off the shelf, okay? After that, you went to Chicago. You were in the last call out. You complained about that. Then you went to Tampa. You were dead last, and you didn't even show up at the night show, okay? And you complained about that. That's when you went on your buddy Matt's show to anybody with an ear and cried conspiracy, okay? So and now you take a second place in a show that you should be celebrating. And listen, you look good, but apparently not good enough to win from the judge's perspective. And you've just turned this into a whole fiasco now where all anybody's ever going to remember you for is being a crybaby and delusional and somebody who can't handle the truth. Yeah. That's where you're at.
I said it when Phil came on my show. I actually do hope that he competes again because I don't think this is the show to go out on because of the circumstances. I really do hope that he does compete again because regardless of how you feel about the situation, this is just not the way to end your career. Because, Phil's been competing since 1999. Do another show and have a good experience, man. Whatever the outcome is going to be, this is not the one to go out on. I want to see guys have a good experience when they come to their career in bodybuilding. I do. I want to see it happen for the guy.
Penson, man, Penson. It ain't going to happen, bro. Okay, listen, he has showed his true colors. Every show he's complained about. And now the funny thing is his wife is out there on the warpath, right? Okay, whatever. Yeah. My mother thinks I should have won every show I was ever in. So I get the whole family if somebody loves you thing, right? Great.
Yeah.
But she says the other day, and I literally laughed out loud, and I was sitting there by myself like an idiot, laughing. Because she puts a post out, and she was going back and forth with me on Ron Harris's Facebook. And she says, and the other thing is, you weren't even there, you had no opinion, blah, 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 all this stuff. Right? And she says, and Dorian's never even beaten Phil, other than in Tampa, okay? When Phil was way off, he beat him there. And I'm like, whoa, hang on a second here. Okay? A lot of people are gonna miss that, but I didn't miss it. So I says, and I responded. You can actually see my response is still there on Ron's site, although she deleted what she wrote for good reason. Phil was way off in Tampa. So wait a minute now. Tampa last year is what started this whole thing off, right? This is what started the entire debacle of me versus Phil and Matt and all that kind of stuff. So now you're conceding that he was way off? Because that wasn't what you guys were complaining about before. You said he got screwed, right? You said Tyler wanted them out of the sport. You said, and I say you, it's Phil, but her.
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't even look at you. They put you all the way in the end. They might as well put you off the stage. It was very evident. They did not want you in the IFBB anymore, right? This is what they said. These aren't my quotes. These are their quotes, okay? So are you now saying that he was way off? So you've changed your view on that? Or you're still going with conspiracy? Because you can't really have both.
I really wish Phil would have come on the show to talk about some of this stuff, man. He decided not to. I respect that.
I would have loved to have seen him squirm as I bring up a fact like this because, and that's what his wife said. Listen, I didn't say it. Your wife said it. Said you were way off in Tampa. So were you way off? Because again, you were just complaining to anybody that would listen that they were just trying to screw you. They were just trying to get you out. They didn't want you to compete anymore. I'm going to
Okay, yeah.
disagree with you 100%, though, my brother. That no, I actually no, I shouldn't say that. I agree with you 100%. Let me change that. He should compete again somewhere else. Go compete somewhere else, and go compete somewhere in a different sport that there's no opinion, because you can't take anybody's opinion unless that you aren't good enough or somebody else was better. You are not built mentally for this sport. You could hang physically. You did for some time. You had a decent career. Okay, I'm not going to take that away from you. But that day is gone, my friend. Take up bowling, because nobody can dispute what you do there, bro. You knock down 8 pins, you knock down 10 pins. All right, nobody can take it away from you. There's no opinion. But do yourself a favor, and all of us, don't come back to the IFBB, because clearly you don't like it. You think everybody wants you out, conspiracy. Why would you ever want to come back and compete here? So go to NABA, go to one of these pissant little federations, or maybe you can be king over there. I got a sneaky suspicion, Kenson, that they would be the same thing over there, and you'd be having the same argument. So, you know.
Like I said, Phil came on here. He gave his opinion. I've given mine. You've given yours. I respect anybody that wants to put an opinion out there, especially coming from a place of education in the sport, such as yourself, such as Phil, such as like to feel as being myself, being, a pretty dedicated analyst, I feel, of the sport. But a lot of respect I would like to see just continue. That's what really, when I start getting tired of this shit, is when it starts getting to a point of disrespect in a personal nature. This is not personal. This is bodybuilding. And even if you want to go beyond that, you can say this is business. Look, man, I'm a
Yeah.
businessman, okay? If you do not act with respect in any business, right? You are not going to keep clients. You are not going to keep employees. You are not going to keep yourself in business. You have to act with an amount of respect. And if people choose to not have that respect,
Yeah,
right?
very true.
Then you are not going to keep the doors open, man. You're just not going to. There is a way to approach every single situation in order to have respect. And I've had, Bob, I've had clients that have disrespected me that I could make money off of, right? You
Sure.
just can't. Yeah, and in the early days, you do what you got to do. But eventually you get to a point where it's just like, man, I like the disrespect is not worth the weight on me, and it's not, which is why it's not worth putting the weight on this situation further when it comes to now it's getting into the personal nature. It's time to fucking stop. Like that's it,
The funny thing is, you're exactly right, bro. But it doesn't. Listen. The problem is people can't separate personal from business when it comes to bodybuilding, because it's their physique.
because it is
Okay.
your physique. Exactly.
Right. So
That's
if
important to
Phil was
clarify.
an
You're right.
old car collector, and he had a '48 Chevy, and I went up and I said, yeah, I got to be honest, man, I'm not really that big on '48 Chevys. It's just not my thing, and I don't like the color. You wouldn't take it personally. You'd be like, oh, geez, bro, what kind of cars do you like? Well, I like '57 Chevy. Okay, great, right? But because it's their physique, especially this guy, okay, he can't separate himself, so he takes everything personally. Where it's like, bro, listen, it's not a personal thing, okay? I did try to explain this initially when he asked for any. I just wish anybody could explain to me what happened. I just wish anybody could explain to me. And I said, hey, right here, I'll explain it to you. And I did. And then ever since then, I'm the asshole, right? You know what I mean? But the point saying, like I said, I hope that clears up some stuff for some people. I had to go. I mean, there are numerous examples throughout the years, but you'll like this one. I had to go way back, bro. Way, 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 way back. Follow me now, okay?
Yep.
To last year's Olympia, okay? Here's an example right in your face from last year's Olympia, okay?
Okay.
2024 Olympia. Bonac and Rafael Brandao are fighting it out for 7th and 8th, okay? Prejudging, Brandao is up by 6 over Bonac, right, in their point totals. At nighttime, Bonac ends up 11 points up. An 11-point swing from morning till night, which dictated, obviously, who was 7th and who was 8th. Same show, all right? Same exact show, 2024 Olympia. Fighting it for 10th and 11th is Akeem Williams and John Jewett. John Jewett is up 13 points in the prejudging over Akeem, okay? Nighttime, Akeem goes up 15 points over Jewett and ends up in 10th place. Jewett ends up in 11th at the finals. Now, why do I bring this up? It's the same process, okay? It only happened to be this time between first and second. Every single major competition, bro. And you usually find this in the middle. Okay, it's usually by the time you get to the bottom, it's pretty much across the board where they place people because they're either off
Yes.
or they're not at that level. And usually at the top 5 or 6, usually it's a point or two, right? You know, we're looking between Derek and Samson and Hadi and, you know, Nick and all the, okay, great, right? So it's usually in that 6 through 12 crew that it gets a little dicey, right? But as you just see off in these two examples, right? So these guys sitting there, oh, this has never happened in the history of bodybuilding. A 9-point swing. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's never mathematically impossible. This just happened at the Olympia in 2 different places in here. And like Guy said, in 2014, he was actually in third and moved up to first. So no, this has happened many, many times. Okay, they just are fixated that they got screwed instead of the idea that they just thought somebody else was better. And that is just the way it goes. But this is not unusual, buddy. It happens all the time, and it happens in different areas that are in the middle. Somebody comes back sharper. Somebody comes back worse. Somebody comes back with after eating 2 pizzas, thinking it's over, and their stomach's sticking out, or whatever the circumstance might be. You know what the bottom line is all this for all the competitors out there? They are judging you at night. So if everybody thinks nighttime is just showtime, you know, the judging's over at prejudging. You can actually see from these things right here. Now, listen, miracles don't occur. Do I think Dorian was great? No. He was soft in the morning, and he got a little sharper for the night show. Do I think Phil was great? Certainly not. He was okay in the morning, and he was okay at night, or a little bit worse. But it's arguable. Okay, it's arguable. You and
Yes.
I can
Okay.
look at it and see it 2 different ways. Again, neither one of us was there, so we're going by pictures and videos, right? But for
That's right.
every reason that you could pick that Phil wins, I can pick a reason that Dorian wins. They're that comparable.
I know exactly what you're saying now when it comes to, look, this is not a new situation in bodybuilding. And that's part of why I wanted to have you on, because you've been at these shows. I don't know anybody that has been to just look at being at more shows, especially when it comes to actually being there and seeing the angles that you do and everything like that.
Oh yeah,
I'm glad that you were able to cite specific examples from not just years ago, but as recent as the 2024 Olympia, that
yeah.
this is news to me, that these situations do actually occur on more of a regular basis than what people actually think. So I appreciate you bringing forward that information. I think that's going to clarify a lot for people.
Well,
Now,
I hope so because, and again, these are just facts. Listen, folks, these score sheets are available anywhere, so I'm not just pulling stuff out to try to make a
that's right.
point. Yeah. I have no vested interest in this any more than Kenson does. Okay, we're just sitting here Monday morning quarterbacking things, discussing a particular situation. I don't care whether Phil wins or Dorian wins or if the Dom the German guy won or if Freddie Smalls came out there and nailed it and he won. I don't really care. Unfortunately, nobody else really cared either. And the problem is this is completely overshadowing, you know, what should be a celebration, what should be a good show. I mean, listen, Phil, you know, again, all bullshit aside, listen, I don't hate you. I really don't. Okay. I feel sorry for you. And I really do, because I think that you're misguided. I think you've surrounded yourself and insulated yourself with people that just blow smoke up your ass and they unwilling to tell you the truth. The truth is you were just not ever as good as you thought you were. And I'm not saying that as a put down, okay? I'm going by the facts. You won a show, nobody's taking that away from you, but that did not put you at the top of the echelon of people. If you remember, Ken's, when all this shit hit with Tampa last year and all that, it was our good buddy Matt, who I was going back and forth with on his show, and I kept asking him. He's like, well, I just think, you know, Phil got screwed, you know, this and that. He was going down the whole thing. And I said, so where do you think he should have been called out? And he says, well, I think he should have been in the first call out. And I says, why? And he says, well, I just do it. I said, what do you mean you just do it? Why do you believe he should have been in the first call? Well, Bob, this is my opinion. What do you mean it's your opinion? Why is it your opinion if you're not answering? No, it's just my opinion. Oh, Bob. Now I see why they call Mr. Potato Head, right? He doesn't get it. It's like, bro, but you're not. And then he finally says, after the 5th time I asked him in a row, because I was going to nail him on it, he says, well, based on what he did last year, I just saw he merited a call out. And I said, wait a minute, last year? Wait a minute. Isn't that the very essence of politics? So you want the judges to bring him out based on something he did last year and not based on what they're seeing right there on the spot, which is what you're supposed to be That is politics. So no, I disagree. Here's the other problem I had with Matt. This is when he lost all credibility and why I've never been on there and would never bother wasting my time. Phil ended up in the last call out in last place. So it's like, Matt, I don't know what you were even looking at. What? Even if it was your best friend in the world, you wouldn't have had him in the first call out when he ends up placing last. So his credibility was gone right there. And now we've all learned since that he has no credibility anyways. But just talks nonsense. But my point of this whole thing, bro, is it's like, look at man, you took last after every show after that one. Okay, when going up against tougher competition, okay, better bodybuilders and all that, you didn't fare any well. You were down in the last call and in last place. So, and then he got mad when we call him a Masters competitor, even though he took third in the Masters Olympia.
Well, I mean, he is a master. He competed in a Masters show. That does make you a Masters competitor. There's really,
That's
I don't
what we
feel anything.
said. It's like, well, why do you
There's
take
really
offense
nothing to get
calling?
upset about that. There's nothing nothing personally insulting about that. I feel that's one thing I can say quite confidently. You are a Masters competitor. You competed in a Masters show, even though you compete. Maybe you have competed elsewhere outside of the Masters as well. You're still a Masters competitor. There's
Well,
no getting around
He
it.
didn't. What he took exception to, because when we called him a Masters competitor, was that he thought we were being degrading and saying like, well, you can't
Yes,
hang with the Open, right? And as it
exactly.
turns out, you can't hang with the Open. I mean, you took last in Chicago, you took last in Tampa, you took last at the Olympia. Listen, I didn't judge you and I didn't put you in those places, but you keep listening to people that won't tell you the truth. I'm telling you the truth, Phil. Okay? You could have had a good career. You could have had a decent, look from people and stuff. But all anybody's going to remember you for is being whiny and unprofessional and just, you're a poor sport. That's
That's
it.
why I hope he. That's why I hope he does another show. And look, it's not like Dorian is going to do any better coming into this year's Olympia. Dorian is going to the Mr. Olympia, and Dorian is
Yeah.
probably going to end up like every other Masters competitor in last place. Let's call it what it is. Actually, I saw
Yeah.
Dorian actually did an interview on John Livia at Serious and Silliness Bodybuilding.
All
Um,
right.
Dorian actually said that he thinks that he could come in and place within the top 10, my friend, within the top 10 at this year's Olympia. The ridiculousness I heard there. I just said
Hang
there's
on, Ken. I think you were breaking up there for a minute, but it sounded like you said top 10.
Bob, I kid you not. I kid you not. Okay. And it's no
Yeah.
again, this is no insult to any Masters competitor, but it is created for that reason so that you can be on a competitive platform given the fact that you are of a certain age and it is inevitable that your physique will continue to essentially decline compared to the regular guys. I mean, look, I'm not as good.
Bro.
I'm
It's
still
like,
pretty
listen,
good, but you know,
the only other thing that me and Phil Clahar have ever agreed on, and probably in our lives, is when he said the other day, and I quote, when he came out on that stage, he was looking directly at Steve Weinberger. And he
yeah.
looked right at him, and the look on it, he was shocked. He was shocked at what he saw when I came out, and I was looking right at Steve. Now, I will sit here and agree with you, Phil, 100%. Again, maybe the only thing we'll ever agree on. Steve was absolutely shocked when you came out, but not for the reason that you think, okay? He was shocked. That's all I'm going to say, okay? But that's the difference between reality and where you think you are, okay? And again, not a put down, just a reality check, okay? There was no superstars in this show. There was no Brandon Curry. There's no William Bonac. There was no Kamal returning to recapture his title, right? None of these guys went in the show. I know for 100%, I'll actually agree with Phil in something, again, shockingly. He probably went to this show thinking that he was going to win the show. He saw the lineup. He saw the invite list. Listen, there was no big names on there. Again, no disrespect to anybody, and he's beaten Dorian before. Now, Dorian's beaten him before, but they beat each other. So he probably had to think, well, shit, if I just come in here, man, that first place prize is mine, and I got the title, and I'll settle off into the sunset, But that's not what happened. And that's why I think he's more butthurt than anything that, he said something about his friends chipped in to send him there or something. I don't know. Started the GoFundMe. I don't know what he did, but so maybe he feels some obligation that, he feels like he let people down or whatever. Listen, second place prize money there wasn't phenomenal. It was okay, but you probably spent half of that just getting there because you're on your own for expenses in that show. So, but that's a chance you take. If he keeps saying, I got robbed. Somebody owes me $10,000. No, nobody owes you $10,000, bro. Nobody. You owe yourself an explanation when you look in that mirror, okay, as to what happened there. You didn't get screwed. Nobody held your words against you from last year. There's no big conspiracy, just like there wasn't last year. There was just two guys up there fighting it out, and at the end of the day, the other guy beat you by 1 point. It's that simple.
Again, when it comes to this point system, and when it comes to the judging of the show, I want to really wrap this up with one question for you. If you
Sure,
can
brother.
really if you can dispel one myth that people have out there when it comes to the judging and how it's done at shows, when it comes to fans, when it comes to athletes, what is the one myth that you would like to kill once and for all when it comes to the judging?
Probably that the judges care. And what I mean by that is like they give them way too much credit, especially these days with all the trainers and the other things. And they think the judges are in tune to all this stuff. Like you've heard these things out there. Well, it's because, I got lost because they don't like my trainer. They lost because this guy, was training with this team or I was with this company, I'm sponsored by they're a major sponsor of the show. So that's why he won. And guys, you are giving the judges way too much credit, especially at the big shows, okay? When you're sitting there and you're watching your 400th competitor go by, okay? First of all, they ain't paying enough attention to any one of you to know. I don't even pay attention to that stuff, and I do this for a living for the most part.
That's right, yeah.
I can't keep track of who's with what trainer. They change them like they change underwear. This guy dropped this guy. Oh, he's no longer working with him. Now he's working with Stefan. Oh, no, he's working with Neil Hill now. You can't keep track. Nobody really gives a shit. The judges assess, for the most part, right? When you come out there and you get compared, okay? And I say that specifically because even the individual is useless. The individual presentation is honestly useless. We've talked about this before. I can honestly see that going by the wayside in some of the bigger shows because utterly it doesn't make any difference. I need to see people next to each other. That's the whole sport. Who looks better compared to who, okay? But they don't know anything about you. They don't follow your stupid stuff. They don't care about your why. They don't care about your journey, okay? They don't care about what you had to go through. You've heard this a million times from every wife, girlfriend, husband, whatever. If they only knew what he had to go through to get on this thing. Look, you're being emotional. I'm not emotionally invested here. I see number 68, okay? And that's what I see, and I'm assessing it. I don't care what he had to go through. And if you notice, just to circle back, Phil started going down that list. I had to do that. He has said this in multiple interviews. Okay, this is the real, if you want to get into the psyche, the Freudism of all this stuff. Okay, I took Psych 101. When he started going down his laundry list of what he had to do, well, it's not the title. They can keep their title. They can keep their trophy. I don't care. It's the money. It's the money that I was after and all that stuff. Well, first of all, if you're doing this for the money, again, like I told him before, you need to get out of this and get into something else. Because this is not a sport to pay your bills, especially when you're 51 years old and going for the Masters anything, okay? But I trained 18 weeks. I had 50 grams of carbs every day for 18 weeks, whatever it was. I did that. I had to overcome that. I had to do this. I had to do that. I busted my ass. You know who else busted their ass? The guy in last place. And he probably busted it more than you did, all right? Maybe he doesn't have the genetics. Maybe he doesn't have the money. Maybe he just doesn't have the wherewithal. But the last place guy probably trained just as hard as the first place guy. It makes no difference to the judges what you did. But the fact that he would go down that laundry list of all these things that he had to overcome and his journey and all that only matters to one person, and that's him. And it certainly don't mean nothing to the 7 guys and women that are there to judge your physique. You don't get to hand in a resume. There is no, what did you do last year round? I've checked with the office. We didn't add that in. There is no, here's what I did last year, so I should get a first call out, right? There is no bench press round. Nobody cares. Okay, none of those things exist, bro. Hey, looking at your physique and they're assessing a physique. That's it.
Yeah, it's the fans that enjoy the story leading up to the show. The judges, it doesn't have any influence on them, is what you're saying.
No, no, listen, they don't care. They again, why would they
No.
care? Listen,
Yeah.
the judges don't get anything more, okay? They get paid the same to do their thing. And by the way, you don't get rich being a judge, okay? Much like you were saying, you got a real
No.
job, bro. You do this for giggles and because you enjoy it and you have a passion for the sport. Great, good for you, right? But this isn't your job. Well, guess what? It ain't their job either. A lot of them have regular, real jobs, and they spend their weekends out here, assessing and looking at sometimes hundreds of physiques, and then giving feedback. And it is truly a game of passion, right? Like that's what you're doing it for. Nobody ever got into judging to make money. I mean, trust me, just like nobody got into bodybuilding to make money. Some of us are just fortunate enough to find ourselves in a position to, make a living out of this. And guys like myself and Sean and others that have been very fortunate, and we've made a living on this stuff. But this notion that's out there now with Discord, Matt, and the rest of these idiots, Bob needs to be removed. He needs to not MC anymore. This is bullshit. It's like I have been doing this for close to 25 years. It all goes back, and again, most of these people weren't around. We've been doing this with PBW, Pro Bodybuilding Weekly. You guys can look it up, okay? Me and Dan Solomon assessing guys after shows, talking to them, interviewing them. I've done backstage, play-by-play with Dan at the Arnold for many years. I obviously hosted the Olympia for 20 years. I've written magazine columns and articles for Muscle and Fitness, for Flex Magazine, for muscular development, all the main things. I've done play-by-play. I've done breakdown. I've done color commentary. So when you guys say like I shouldn't have any opinion because I'm the MC, you guys are 20 years too late. I've been doing this. This will be my 20th year at the microphone. Obviously, if they didn't like what I did, they wouldn't have me back. Okay, so again, stop with the nonsense, guys. I mean, it's so overblown and so stupid because I got an opinion and I'm spitting facts to somebody and he doesn't like it. It's like, well, so what? Again, 20 years, guys. I've been doing the same thing.
Yeah, look, I don't think anybody could ever deny that you are, without undoubtedly, the greatest announcer to ever exist in a professional bodybuilding scene in any division. It's not even in question, Bob.
I appreciate
And
that.
well, it's true. I mean, look, you do a great job when it comes to being on stage. You can put everything else aside. You don't like Bob's opinions. You don't like what Bob says on his channel, all that other shit. You do a great job on stage, man. I mean, there's no
Thank
getting
you. Thank
around
you.
it. There's
Well, listen,
just
I
not.
think I've carved out a good niche. I think I do a good, like I say, people seem to like what I do. And again,
Oh,
my
they keep
20th
your
year,
phone keeps ringing, right? You keep getting
like,
calls to go all over the world. It's not people aren't getting you in there to be nice to you and pay you what they do.
well, let me tell you
It's
something.
because
The
you do a
ultimate
good job.
compliment. Let me tell you the ultimate compliment I get, and this is where people, again, they don't get it, and I understand that, but I go all over the world. I've been around the world twice, okay, and on somebody else's dime, okay. I have
Yeah.
made a lot of money in this industry, okay, not just from emceeing, obviously, but other business ventures that I've had and been a part of, and show promotion and everything else. I've made my career, my living at the world of bodybuilding, okay. I go overseas. Um, I might as well be one of the Olympian bodybuilders, but I have as many people come up to me, voice of bodybuilding. Hey, especially the Iranians. The Iranians living. I'm huge in Germany, bro. I told you.
Yeah,
Way
yeah.
past Hasselhoff. Way past Hasselhoff at this point, bro.
Oh, I've seen the
Huge in
videos of
Germany.
you at FIBO. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
I've seen
but
it.
I mean, but listen, it's very humbling and very cool at the same time that people come up and they're, and athletes. I have IFBB pro athletes that have come up, bro. I have listened to your voice in my head so many times. I see the videos where I'm playing at the gym, and I want to hear your voice announce me as that type of stuff. And let me tell you, it's very humbling. It's very humbling to think that you had that type of impact on somebody, but it means something, and I become synonymous. I'm known by basically two things out there. I'm the voice of bodybuilding and the Olympia guy. That's what I get the most, right? That's what people know me as. Most of the people don't even know I used to compete, especially the younger generation. Every once in a while, I'll get the old, "Hey, I Googled you, and man, I didn't know you were a pro, or I didn't know you can. Man, you had a pretty good physique." It's like, yeah, they just know me as the guy in the suit with the microphone. They don't know, but it's a great niche. But I mean, and I got the best seat in the house, as I've often said. But to have these idiots out there in these various camps, because I don't particularly care for Phil's comments or actions, or I'm not a big fan of Nick Walker's style of his physique. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, I'm a hater, and I shouldn't have to. Why is Bob saying anything? They need to fire him, and Matt's on this thing now to fire me. It's like he's got me punched to anything in
One
this
thing
industry.
it's just one thing has nothing to do with the other. Your opinion of a competitor has nothing to do with your performance as an announcer. That's just a fact. I mean, it has nothing to do with one another. Nothing. Why should you be canceled as an announcer for having a conversation or an opinion online of someone, something, anything? It just doesn't make any sense.
And they think I hate people like the other year, when Nick, because again, I'm not a big fan of Nick's physique. I like Nick as a person. Okay. I don't like his structure of his physique. Okay. It's a personal thing. Maybe I like a Bob Paris type physique. Okay. Which, I grew up on, but listen, I am always professional, always have been on stage and always will be. I'm the one who called Nick's victory at the Arnold Classic a couple years ago. Okay.
Yes,
And when he was declared the winner, Arnold came out, gave him his trophy, and walked off the stage. I'm the
that's
one
right.
who took the initiative to go out there and interview him. I didn't have to do that. That wasn't in the script. I just felt as though that's like, geez, I kind of felt bad. I'm like, Arnold just kind of left him hanging out there. And all the poor guy wanted to do was have his family come up and meet Arnold, and he was already gone, bro. I mean, out of the back door. But I did that out of respect for Nick, again, because I don't dislike the kid. And he won the show, and I thought he deserved his moment in the sun, to thank who he wanted to thank or bring his family on stage or whatever. Point being is like I do that kind of stuff all the time. You would never know who I like and dislike or whether I even care by my announcing, because everybody gets, the good over the top professional announcement, whether they win, lose, or draw. But,
Well,
I've also recognized Nick, just using him as an example, at the Olympia, when he was injured and he was down in the front, and I recognized, his presence that was there, and told him as much on stage. So, it's be a much better Olympia with you in it, bro. But listen, I don't want him not in the Olympia. I think he's absolutely a top contender. Now, whether he takes eighth or whether he takes fourth or whether he wins the damn thing, good for him. I'm all for it, man. I am looking forward to this show like nobody else. Trust me.
and as am I, and like I said, opinions in bodybuilding, they're a good thing. It allows us to have conversations. It allows the sport to grow at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, right? People may not agree
Yeah.
with the delivery from some people may not agree with my delivery. That's fine, but comes back to respect yet again. But no, you're right, Bob. The Olympia is right around the corner, and I actually did want to ask you something about you being the announcer of the Olympia. Is
Sure.
there a way that you prepare for the Olympia in particular when it comes to the announcing of the show? Like, is there some sort of a ritual that you go through leading up to the show before you get there, everything like that? Like, how do you prepare to step on the biggest stage in bodybuilding to comment with the best of the best out there?
I mean, obviously, I've been doing it for a while, so
Yeah,
being
I'm sure that
familiar.
it's built over time. Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, I have to look stuff up because I mean, this sport has grown so big over 20 years, from my first Olympia to the one coming up. A lot of it's just being prepared. Knowing who the champs are, knowing who's a prior champion. So you can give them their proper introductions and things like that. Then there's a whole production thing. I mean, it's you are at the mercy of your production crew. Listen, I've had production crews that weren't particularly good in other big shows, and that's why I don't do them anymore, because I take great pride in what I do, and I have a certain expectation, and I like to think, listen, there's a lot of my plate up there that nobody has any idea. I have to be cognizant of 10 different things going on at the same time that you're entertaining, whatever it is, 10,000 people out there. So you have to be cognizant of the crowd, the judges, the flow of the show, the production itself. There are 6 commercial spots during the Olympia that nobody even knows exist because we don't show the commercials there. So what happens is people say, oh, I don't like Bob, it's all he does is ramble up there, or, he just talks too much, or, something. And they have no idea that I'm filling in 6 commercial spots during the night. So what happens is we get done with something like, I don't know, pick a category, bikini. All right, folks, well, you just saw our top 10 bikini ladies. We'll see them back in just a bit as the judges compile their scores. Right now, I'd like to take a quick minute to recognize, it was back in 1965 that Joe Weider created the Mr. Olympia, and some of the greatest champions of all time have come there, been on the Olympia stage. I'm eating time. I'm not just blabbing because I want to hear myself talk. What's going on is in my ear. They're telling me, okay, when I'm talking about the bikini thing, they're saying, okay, Bob, going to commercial and in 10, 9, 8, 7, right? And commercial. The minute he says commercial, I have to start something fresh because the camera goes right to me. They're not showing the commercial. And that's when I'll start with some bullshit, or I'll recognize somebody that, hey, some of the biggest fans, folks, are right here at the Olympia, and they're right here in the front row. Please welcome Shaquille O'Neal, boom. And right now, hey, there's Brian Shaw, world's strongest man. Hey, guys, I'm going to pose down with you two, blah, blah, blah. In my ear, I'm getting the count. Okay, Bob, coming back in 20 seconds, coming back in 10, 9,
Right.
8, 7. Okay, then I'm wrapping things up. This is all a timing thing, right? All right, Brian. Well, hey, you know what? We'll get you and Shaq in some posing trunks, and maybe we'll have you guys out there and back live. All right, folks. Well, we are ready to go with our next category. We got some of the best figure competitors in the world right here on the Olympia stage. Please welcome your first competitor. This happened 6, 7 times during the night, bro. Now I'm just giving some context to people, but before you start jumping on me or you're not a particular fan of my. Listen, that's fine. Everybody's got their likings, you know what I mean? But keep in mind, I got to be cognizant of the photographers. I've got to, they got to get their work done. So when we get the awards and stuff, I have to control all that, or people just start walking off the stage, and the photographers are going nuts because that's their time. So if you notice, there's a pattern that I have that I use with that, where you got whatever it is, top 6. Okay, thank you, ladies. Boom, we'll get rid of them. And then you leave the winner in the center. Okay, let's get her pictures or his. Then I'll walk over there. Then I'll do a short interview. All right. Then I'll whisper something in their ear as I'm walking. There's a lot of inside stuff here, bro. I'm giving your people. So, okay.
Yeah.
What am I whispering in their ear? Well, I'm not giving them good tidings. And, I'm telling them, hit a few poses for the cameras, put down the belt or whatever they might be holding flower, who knows, right? Put that down, hit a couple of shots. Okay, congratulations. Boom. And I'm off. So they can get a clean shot without me in it of the champ. So It's just little things like this, bro, or somebody's retiring. And I've got to, none of that stuff, there is no script, bro, when it comes to that stuff. I have to recognize or be cognizant, like a DJ years ago, retired on the Olympia stage. Well, I took it upon myself to recognize, his 10 years, or Jose Raymond, who had 20 years in the business or whatever, to get those guys out there.
You did the same thing with Guy, I remember.
Same thing with Guy, right? Listen, I do everything I can to put these athletes up on the pedestal, because if there's rule one as an MC, it's not about you. It's all about the athletes there and the Olympians. If you're at the Olympia, and to hold them up and to give them their props. That guy's got one chance to get recognized if he's going to go out on the Olympia stage. It's up to me to make that happen, because there is no script of it. It doesn't say, like on a piece of paper, bring Jose Raymond out to recognize as he retired. That doesn't exist. I have to be aware of what people are doing or how they're doing it. And then the rest of it's just fixing problems, bro. The art and the skill of an MC, if you're good, is I can tell you right now, bro, there's 20 things that go wrong during the show of Friday night, Saturday night. The key is that nobody else knows that there's 20 things that go wrong. I either fix it, or I get the people while I can get to them. I've looked down on the sheet and the placings are reversed, or they got the wrong guy, or you know what I mean? Like, you have to be. If anybody is ever paying attention to what I'm doing up there, you'll see I'm always, I'm sitting there and I'm kind of flipping paper. You know why? Because I'm 4 pages ahead, trying to spot problems. Or wait a minute, that's not going to work. Or holy shit, I don't have the top 10 list. I need to get to I need to get my guy off to the side to say, hey, bro, I need the top. Oh shit, that's right. But all this stuff goes on, at the night. But it's a lot of juggling, man. But it's, what? I wouldn't trade it in for a real job. That's for sure.
No, certainly not. I mean, it's like you said, it's one of the best seats in the house, if not the best seat in the house, without a doubt. How far out from the Olympia do you actually travel to show up there? When do you start doing meetings? Do you head to the stage, you look at the podium, sound checks, things like that? Like how far out do you travel?
Oh yeah. I'm there Wednesday, usually the Wednesday before.
Okay.
We have a few production meetings. Usually I try to get an early look at the stage, because even though it's not, quote, my job, I am a part of the production team. So I'll see things that I might have a question about, couple of years ago, we had a ramp that was in the center that was way too steep. You know, it was like 45 degrees. I'm like, hey guys, nobody can come down that ramp without killing themselves. So
Someone's going to break their neck.
we
Yeah.
may want to flatten that. Somebody just didn't do the math right, you know, or there's a speaker that's literally right next to me. And it's like, well, guys, I can't. First of all, I'm going to get feedback. Secondly, I can't hear anything if there's a speaker blasting in my ear all night. You know what I mean? So there's little things that I will look for to try to fix before we ever get to showtime. Wednesday is usually the athletes meetings, all that kind of stuff. Thursday I have the press conference, which I obviously host. Thursday night is media night. Basically, it's to meet the Olympians and all that. So I'll go around and help with that, do interviews, whatever it is. And then from there, it's a whirlwind. Friday morning, I'm on stage for the pre-judging, 10 a.m., whatever it is. I get off of the stage usually around 2 or 2:30, so it's straight. I mean, there's obviously almost no breaks. I do all the pre-judging. Then I usually have about an hour or so to shove a cheeseburger down my throat, go put my suit on, go over to the finals for pre-production, and then boom, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever it is. Hey, everybody. Hey, welcome, everyone. Hey, are you ready? All that shit. Okay. And then it's a repeat. Obviously the show goes till midnight, whatever. Saturday morning, boom, back on the Olympia stage pre-judging, 10 a.m., 3 o'clock, finals at 7 till we finish. And then Sunday I got the seminar. So it's about as busy a weekend as I can possibly get. The key is trying to pace yourself because you start losing voice in there and you got problems,
Is there anything that you do to maintain your voice throughout the weekend?
A lot of coffee, a lot of sometimes I'll use some lozenges just to you got to keep hydrated, but not enough that you got to go pee because I'm on stage. I can't get off sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So there's a fine line there of how much you can drink and keep yourself going. But the key is moderation. It's so easy to get hyped up when you're there and it's the Olympia and you're on the big expo stage, and you want to really belt out some intros. But I've got 400 people. 400. So right, yeah. You can't sit there and do the over-the-top intro and, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your first competitor from Orlando Lakes, Florida. Bro, first of all, we don't have that kind of time. Secondly, you're going to last about 2 hours, and then I got to be on stage Friday night to not only deliver the Friday night finals and give those people their energy and their props, but also the men's pre-judging. And, so you are going to elevate it a little bit. Listen, the superstars, it's the Olympia, right, bro? I got to bring the energy. I mean, if I'm flat, then everybody's flat. You know what I mean? So I have to be up there. And then I have to do it again Saturday. So you got to pick it. You got to pick and choose your time. There's a time to bring it up. And then there's a time to, pre-judging. I mean, I'll give a nice intro, but it's a very respectable, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your next competitor,
Yeah, you might be at a 5 or a 6. You might be at a 5 or a 6 as compared to going to that 10 you say for Saturday.
A great analogy. Yeah, it's a 5 or a 6. It's very consistent. It's very smooth. And let's get it through, guy. But again, got to save some for Friday, and you really got to save some for Saturday because you're going to make a big announcement. You don't need your voice cracking or or you have no voice. that would not be good. So, but just a little bit of insights there. But it's something, man. This is gonna be a great Olympia.
Yeah, like you said, beats the hell out of a real job. That's how I feel about what I do, right? I mean, I don't feel like I've got one of these, real jobs kind of thing, right? It's funny when you mention making sure that you really gotta save yourself from being at the podium and not drinking too much, so you don't gotta go piss your brains out in the middle of the set. We do the same thing in diving, in the winter, especially when you're wearing dry suits. Like, man, you got to time yourself before you get in the water. If you're in the water at 8 a.m. versus 12 p.m. or 3 p.m., how much water are you drinking leading up to that? Because if you're in the water for 2-3 hours, I can tell you right now, man, it sucks having to get out for a piss, taking the helmet off, everything, taking the suit off. It's a process, right? And then jumping back in. The worst part of it is getting in and out, right? So you try
I got it down now where you got to pick a time. Usually if there's something at the Olympia, everything's vast, it's very huge. So usually when I go to the call outs, because these classes are so big now, I can go to a call out. Okay, we got our, ladies in place. Let's send it down to the judges. Sandy. Okay, thanks, Bob. She can, right then is my golden opportunity to kind of to shoot out to the back. Because I know I got about 15 minutes maybe 20, and I've mastered the art of disappearing. Hit the bathroom, grab a cookie or something to so you're not dying. And then
No one
by the
even knows
time
you're
I get,
gone.
no, they don't even know I'm gone, bro.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, that's really cool, man. No, so this is your 20th year?
this is number. So it's actually, yes, this is my 20th year actually at the podium. As I started, it was me and Sean Ray actually in 2006, I believe.
Yeah.
04 and '05, I was part of the press conference, but I wasn't. So I was part of the Olympia,. But not on the stage yet. So yeah,
Okay.
this would be my 20th Olympia on stage actually.
Fantastic. No, absolutely fantastic. Well, it's really great that you were able to give us some of that insight, on the judging criteria, the scoring system, things like that, but also just what you do when it comes to being the MC at the Olympia. Like you said, a lot goes into it, and it's something to be really recognized of the amount of organization, professionalism, and just individualism, things that are on you to make sure that are in place that nobody else is even thinking about, right? So, and those are things that come with the amount of experience that you have and how things do flow very well when it comes to the actual show. So, yeah, that's
Appreciate that,
actually
bro.
really cool.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
that's
you.
actually really cool. Well, we've got 7 weeks to go, and like you said, going to be very, very exciting. Can't wait to see exactly how these guys are actually going to show up on that Olympia stage, and it's going to be here before you know it.
Well, we got some, I mean, obviously we can go another hour just with Olympia. You probably have to cut this into two parts, but um, listen, you got Hadi coming back, who we haven't seen all year. So, assuming he can get to the States, I hope to God there's no issues with visas, Iran. That seems to have
Yeah,
calmed down. So, God willing, he can get here. He's been the only guy off all year. So, if I'm giving a nod right now, it's to Hadi because he's well rested. He's been training all year. Hopefully he can get here, right? Beirut is in the same position, hopefully with a visa. It looks very good. I hope he can get her. He's qualified 3 years over, and he hasn't been able to get to the States, which is a damn shame. Real good guy, but if Beirut can get here, he's kicking somebody out of the top five. You heard it here first, okay? By the way, speaking of hearing it here first, on a complete side note, I just got to give myself a quick pat on the back for telling Urs Kalasinski to go to the Open last year at the New York Pro or whatever, and everybody thought I was nuts. But so he's going to make the switch. So just anyway, I told you, all right, Eric's going to be that kid's good, man. But Derek and Samson, a little bit of uncharted waters, right? Both guys competed this year. I heard Samson might go in that France show again before the Olympia. It's kind of a tune-up, which I think would be a great idea. I firmly believe that show is what got him the Olympia. Bought him that first-class ticket because he was a little bit better. And he was just sharp enough to win it, even though he's got the best physique. We all know he's not the most ripped guy, and conditioning can be a problem when you got, Derek did the Arnold 500,000. By the way, it was our good buddy Matt who begged him not to do the show, bro. Oh,
I
hang
remember
on.
that. Yeah.
I'm losing power. Hang on.
No, okay. Yeah,
Okay.
I
He,
remember that. Yeah.
whoops. So he begged him to do the freaking show, not to do the show. Bro, I'm telling you, bro. Bro, listen to me, Derek, man. If you're listening, don't do the show, man. I'm telling you, bro. Listen to me, man. All he did was go win the show, put $500,000. Bro, he just made more money in one night than you made in your entire life. Okay, so nice job, Matt. But listen. So Derek's on a short year, right? Because he just competed, and then he competed in Pittsburgh. So again, that can take its toll. But I suspect that those three guys will definitely be in the mix. You got Nick, who obviously won New York, and he's made some improvements to his physique. He's an unknown to me. I mean, listen, again, everybody knows I'm not a big fan of his style of physique, but he brings a lot of muscle and he gets in great condition. So, I know we were going back and forth before on that whole thing, but he could go fourth or he could go sixth or seventh. I mean, that wouldn't shock me. You got Andrew Jack, you got Fitzwater. So you got some damn good guys.
Man, it's really going to be a ridiculous lineup this year. I mean, if everybody shows up at their best, I mean, you can keep going down the line. You've got Tony O'Burton that's going to be coming back to the Olympia. He's looking ridiculous right now. Nexzilla
Well,
qualified for the Olympia. Good
How about
veto.
Nexzilla?
Nexzilla, good veto. I mean,
Good
William
veto.
Bonac. William
Oh yeah,
Bonac looks better now than he did 5 years ago. It's
I know.
unbelievable, man. Like
Yeah,
I see
there's
the updates. It's and I just think it's really going to be one of the best. Like of the 2020s, I think this is going to be the best, without a doubt.
well, listen, there's a lot of guys who could sneak up in there, but yeah, just like we were just talking about, it's that 6 through 10 crew that's going to be real. And again, so Nick's a freak, right? Everybody know, hey, Nick's a freak. Nick's a freak. If he's a freak, what the hell is Neckzilla? What's this guy
Yeah,
gonna do? You know what I mean? You go, whoa, hang on a second, and Beirut's, like I say, I talk him up because he's good. Andrew Jack has a Mr. Olympia physique. If that guy nails it, if he's 10% better than what we saw in Texas last year, that guy's up
everyone's in
there. So
trouble.
I mean, this can be a lot of guys into that. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's what it's going to come down to: is who brings it on game day, of course. Um, but there are some bigger physiques out there that I think can really do well. But they got, listen, you got Regan, who again I've been very positive on his physique and what he brings. I mean, he's very structurally sound.
There's another one.
Beautiful physique, very Samson-esque, but he needs to bring the conditioning. He needs to. He faded in his last couple of shows, right? We saw him walk out on stage as the winner, and started to fade off. So I mean, that's a problem. But he's got a phenomenal physique. So man, yeah, you got some physique. Good Vito again, kind of lost in the shuffle because he got hurt. We didn't see him in Pittsburgh. Fitzwater was fourth the other year. Fitzwater could have won Pittsburgh if he just came in right, because Derek was off and Nick, while he was good, I mean, he's got some flaws. Fitzwater blew it, and he's going to have to redeem himself. But he's got a hell of a physique, man. He doesn't have a lot of flaws.
Yeah, I actually think that Regan has. Well, I know that Regan has hinted at possibly competing again before the Olympia. He may go do one of these other two shows. He might do the Italy. He might do the Europa. I think the Europa might be most feasible for him right now. He hasn't announced anything in particular, but he did hint at it on his YouTube channel that he might actually do another one. There's another guy
And you
that
know
could
what?
benefit. I think he could do like Samson did and benefit from
Yeah.
competing right before the Olympia, especially having his new coach,
Yep.
who is it, Dom Super Sliced, figure out Regan's physique, because it seems like figuring out his physique has been a constant fucking Rubik's Cube for anybody that he's worked with, and see if he can
Right.
come in. There's another guy, like you said, mixing up that top 10. Top 10 is up for grabs. 6th to 10th is anybody's guess at this point.
Yeah, I think that would be smart for Regan if he can do that. And we haven't even mentioned, a couple, well, you got a show coming up. You got Sergio going in,
Quint
who
Beastwood,
looks
yep.
pretty good in his updates. Quint Beastwood, man, let me tell you something. I've been high on this guy. Unfortunately, I predicted him to maybe even upset Nick at the New York last year, not this one, but the one before. And
Yep.
unfortunately, he completely blew it. But people, again, they thought I was nuts. I'm like, if you can see talent, okay, people, trust me. Yeah, that wasn't his best outing. He whittled himself down too much and lost out. Well, guess what? He took the last year, he put it back on. He's had a great showing. That is a phenomenal physique in the making. He needs another year or so, but if he can get to the Olympia, he's a big boy, man. He can stand with those guys. So that wouldn't shock me. And who else was there? There was somebody else slated for Italy.
Slated for Italy.
Yes, there's
Sure.
another top name. I'm drawing blank right now, but I know Sergio was going in, and I know Quint Beastwood's going in for sure. So there was a third guy that we haven't heard, but there's some talent, man. Like you're right. It's up for grabs.
Stefan Matala. Is it Stefan
Stefan?
Matala that you were thinking of? No?
No. It was a bigger name, but I just can't remember who it is. But I really wish you wouldn't have mentioned the coaching change for Regan, bro. The judges might be watching this and they would possibly hold that against them, bro. I'm sure they're taking notes as they're watching this.
Well, if they're watching this, I'm looking for a ticket to the Olympia. I prefer the first 3 rows. If anybody wants to reach out to me, get me on Instagram.
Bro, it'd be great to have you there, because I know for your work schedule and all that, I'm sure you'd want to be there. Unfortunately, a lot of the other guys I would love to see at a show personally just don't show up.
I do plan on getting there. I get more and more asks every year. You're going to be at the show. You're going to be at the show. I'm going to really have to dedicate getting there in 2026. I'm really going to have to just make my way there. My thing has always been covering the show benefits the YouTube channel by being here. But honestly, I think I got to figure it out to get there. And 2026, I think, is going to have to be the year. It's going to have to happen now.
Well, that'd be great, man. Let's get you out there, and hopefully, if we it's a little tougher, maybe I can help you out with that front three, row seating. It's tough now because we're in a theater. Hopefully, we can go to a arena in the future, as I think we're looking at ramping up the numbers and all that stuff. But I got a little more freedom with tickets at that point. But I'd love to have you as my guest, bro. It'd be great.
Hey, I really appreciate it, man. Look, I'm not looking for it for nothing. I'll pay for it. I don't give it. Like I got no problem with that. No, it's all good. No, look, I do. I appreciate it, man. 2026, I'm taking you up on that now. That's it.
All right. Like I say, as long as if there's seats, like I say, it's tougher with the theater because obviously we only have limited seating. But we go to arena, bro. I got a ticket for you.
Sounds good to me. Well, look, I'm going to end it on that, Bob. We'll look at wrapping this up again like we did last year. I'll get you back on after the Olympia. Really, really enjoyed last year being able to hear exactly what was seen, from your end of things. Always love having you on. Again, I appreciate the insight. I appreciate the honesty. And I hope that this did clear up some things for people yet again in the world of bodybuilding so that we can continue on and all roads lead to the Olympia.
Well, if anybody watching's got any questions, I'll be sure to get on Kenson's on the comments. So if you got anything additional, you had something that you didn't get, or you have an additional question, ask. I'll be more than happy to get on and clear it up for you. But yeah, I hope this lends some clarity with how the points work. Again, it's not accumulative. You don't bring a lead into the night show and all that. It's two separate scores that you get that get combined for an overall scoring. But they're assessing a physique, guys. That's the game we're in.
That's it. That's the name of the game. Well, we'll see how the game continues in 7 weeks. But that's going to do it for this episode. Again, thank you very much for joining me, Bob. And we'll see you guys in the next one.